Yo, this is what people were eating in the USSR?
Не хуже, чем в московском ресторане.
Oh my gosh. This is what y'all were eating in the USSR? Okay, guys, I have been extremely busy lately. Gonna be posting a couple of videos on Russia for the next couple of days. But yeah, I've been extremely busy with a whole bunch of stuff off camera and just personal stuff. Is just really busy. But yeah, this suggestion, you know, very interesting. I always love it when I do reactions in Russia. It's always my favorite type of reactions to do. Of course it is, because I'm everyone's favorite Russian fanboy. So, but this isn't in Russia. This is in the USSR, particularly in Latvia. He wanted me to see what life was like in the Baltics, which is interesting. Because usually I hear that life was extremely negative. Oh, Americans are watching this too, because I do have Americans and Western people who watch my stuff as well.
Смогли бы так работать без своего цеха номер 1, комбината питания? Смотрите и судите сами. А социологи уже подсчитали. За счет отличного общественного питания производительность труда увеличилась на 7-8%.
It's very interesting because this is the late Soviet Union here.
Дома, и комбинат питания кормит их здесь, как говорится, без отрыва от производства.
This is very interesting. This is the late Soviet Union, 1984. 1984. 1984. This is literally like a good 6 years before the USSR collapsed. It makes it look like everything was great. Although, during this time period, the economy was stagnant, right? If I'm not mistaken, in the USSR, the late USSR. That's one of the reasons why it collapsed, if I'm not mistaken. The economy wasn't like decreasing, but it just was just stagnant.
На конвейере перерыв. Можно перекусить в кафе-автомате.
They have food.
Завтрак не хуже домашнего.
Oh my gosh. You know, what I learned here in the West, I always hear this all the time. Now, the USSR is such a big place, I don't know. But what I always hear about it over here is that in the late USSR, like, stores had no food. So, like, food, like, in large quantities like this was quite rare.
Пылу с жару. С такой пирожковой никакой домашней кухни не сравнится. Пышки, блинчики, одних пирожков 15 видов. Неудивительно, что каждый день здесь бывает 2000 рабочих. Да, люди лучше трудятся там, где ощущают искреннюю заботу о себе.
Wow. I don't know how I should interpret this. I'm gonna be so honest with you. I don't know how I should interpret it. Oh, this was from the Latvian archives too. Huh. Okay, so this is from the archives of Latvia. Cause I'm like looking at this, I'm like, is this actually for real? I'm like, this is so different to everything that because quite frankly speaking, right? You know, I'm like, is this just like, you know, your classic propaganda video where, again, like I said before, propaganda isn't like lies, right? I mean, if this is true, well, I mean, it is true. I mean, they're recording it here. It's really like messing with my whole thought process, if I had to be quite honest with you, because I'm like, the late USSR. I don't know anything about the USSR. Well, I don't know a lot. Like, I know a lot about the USSR, but there's still a lot that I'm like ignorant about. Now, interestingly enough, actually, I've actually had some comments from people from USSR who lived in the USSR, and they gave quite an interesting picture of it. And it's so hard for me to really the USSR is one of those places where it's like it really depends. But now that I think about it, I don't know how life was truly like in the Baltics. I always like hear like the Baltics didn't want to be a part of the USSR. They were forcibly annexed, after that point, I never really heard anything else.
Станций «Квант» продумано все. Поза монтажника, цвет стола, расположение рабочего инструмента. Рационально, удобно, красиво. 3 обязательных принципа.
Вау.
На современном предприятии современным должно быть все, от рабочих мест до столовой. Производственное объединение ВЭФ – коллектив высокой культуры производства. Комбинат питания «Вэфовец» – кавалер Ордена Трудового Красного Знамени. Это тоже производство, высоко механизированное и автоматизированное. Скоро в зала комплексных обедов сядет сразу 800 ВЭФовцев. На кухне все готово, милости просим. У комбината питания «Вэфовец» нет аналогов в стране, ведь его техническим оснащением занимались конструкторы и инженеры.
He did say that he wanted me to see like how like the Baltics were actually treated.
Опускаешь деньги, турникет пропускает в зал.
That's the whole point of this video.
За наличный расчет.
No, I could take this at face value and be like, oh, well, the Baltics were treated great. But this is just one video. Nonetheless, though,
а в конце месяца бухгалтерия произведет расчет.
Nonetheless, though, this is still pretty insightful. So, I'm actually quite invested in this.
Напланировать бюджет. В будущем кредит станет на ВЭФовце основной формой расчета. Крахмальные салфетки, красивые приборы – это создает настроение и прививает вкус.
I'm still flabbergasted they have food.
Выбирай на свой вкус. На кухонном конвейере тоже специализация, как в цехах. Те же плюсы. Максимум скорости.
Look at that natural looking food there.
Вкусно поесть приятно, но еще приятнее вкусно накормить.
What? Look at all that food, bro. America always teaches like, oh, food was so hard to get by in the USSR. But look at this.
Время получения обеда 50 секунд, поэтому горячее не успевает остыть, а холодное согреться.
So which one is true? Did they have food or did they not have food? Like, I'm sorry, guys. Shit. Everything that this is why I've been teaching myself Russian. Because it's like I need to hear it from their perspective. Anything that I hear about like post-Soviet space from the American perspective, Western perspective, it's so bad that when I do go and hear from the actual perspective from people like over there, I'm like, that's a very different than what I've been hearing. And even then, it's a bit more nuanced to it than that, because there's a lot of people over there who it really depends. Like you have like those ultra nationalists, right? Cough Ukraine, who like demonizes the Soviet Union, even though the only reason why Ukraine exists more so is because of the USSR. But it wasn't really always like that. But that has just been happening throughout the past 10 to 15, well, I would say like 10 years, decade, really and truly, where that ultra nationalist like propaganda have plagued Ukraine. Now, the Baltics, though, they've also, like, I've heard that they've de-Russifying themselves a lot. Yeah, the Baltics really don't like anything to do with Russia, or what they think is Russia, because the USSR, again, the USSR and Russia are two different countries. Which I don't really understand that. It's like, how do you, okay, you don't like the USSR. Okay, I get it. They occupied your country. um by force, you know, like I could get that, right? But it's like Russia is not the USSR. Like they're putting their blame on Russia for everything that a completely different entity committed that doesn't even exist anymore, right? That's why I'm like so perplexed. I'm like, what is this misguided hate for? Like, bro, I mean, even like Putin said himself, Putin was like, bro, you know, many Russians also suffered under the hands of the USSR. Like, it wasn't just like, oh my gosh, all Russians were living great, and you know, anyone who wasn't Russian was not living great. Like, no. And it's true. It's like, why are you blaming like normal, regular Russians and just Russia in general for something that has, like, yeah, Russia was a part of the Union, it had a lot of influence, but still, though, it was a union at the end of the day.
Вкусно? Сейчас узнаем.
You know what's so crazy about this? You know what's so crazy about this? It's hard for me to understand what she's saying. But when I see the subtitles, right? I read the subtitles. Goes back to what I was saying before, where I was like, I'm a receptive B1, where I can't really like speak Russian that well. Like, I can't fully express myself, and my listening is lacking, but I could read. When I read things and I'm hearing it, I can like keep up. And that's like what's happening. Like every time my eyes go off the subtitles and I try to listen, I'm like, wait, what is she talking about? Then I look at it, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Это она спроектировала обед. Разработала около 1700 вариантов комплексов. Вот откуда такое разнообразие. Каждое блюдо встречается в меню не чаще одного раза в месяц. Подходит время обеденного перерыва, и в монтажном цехе производственного объединения «Радиотехника». Ассортимент его продукции постоянно обновляется. Конструкторы стараются вложить в новинки весь опыт передовой технической мысли. А как обстоят дела с цехом номер 1? Говорят, все дороги ведут в Рим. На производственном объединении «Радиотехника» крытые галереи ведут в комбинат питания. Механизирована даже транспортировка туш. Вот это да! Быка одной левой.
Yeah, real natural meat there, folks. Unlike what we're getting in America here.
С пульта управления можно контролировать работу всего комбината питания. Телевизионная установка позволяет быть в курсе происходящего и на кухне, и в зале.
Bro, should I talk about like the quality of food in America?
Получение комплексных обедов тоже автоматизировано, но иное, чем на веб-це. Вместо денег жетоны и 6 вариантов комплексных обедов.
I don't know if I should talk about the quality of food here. Trust me, I would have a lot to say.
Опустил жетон, конвейер двинулся и предложил тебе обед. Роль официантов выполняет автоматика.
Real natural food.
Комплексный обед – это...
Bro, you know, one of the reasons why I'm leaving America is because the food is absolutely god awful. Not in terms of like taste, but the food is literally kills you. Like it's not like it's bad. It's really bad. I don't know how else to just say it. It's just really awful. recently there's been like on my feed literally yesterday, just this whole week, of how cancer rates have been spiking in younger people. Some people are even saying there's actually a cancer epidemic. And a new study released in the US showed that 1 out of 2 people are going to get cancer eventually in their lifetime. And they're like, what the hell is with all this increase in cancer? Well, I know what it is. Because the damn food, bro. But that's a different video. American food is terrible. It's awful. Really awful. Holy shit. But again, that's a different video, bro. I don't know how people like do stuff out in Russia. I saw that one video where they were like boiling like chicken. And I was like, holy shit, they don't do that over here. Like, or actually, with the method of how they get their foods is like a lot more like how it's supposed to be done type shit. But that's not what this video is about. I'll talk more about that on another reaction of Russia compared to America. This is just more like life in Latvia, really and truly.
За время обеденного
Yo, that girl is
нужно
fine as
путешествовать
fuck.
по всей стране,
Sorry.
отведать блюда разных республик.
Oh my god. Yo, look, I'm sorry, I just had to say that. I'm not really the type of dude like to get fazed by someone who looks pretty. Like, it's very hard. Usually everyone knows me as a guy who's very, very like docile, very, very extremely stoic in front of women. And that's true. But usually whenever I see one that actually looks pretty, I'm like shocked. So like when you get surprised by something, you get jumped by something, you just like, holy shit, wow, someone who actually looks pretty, holy shit. That food looks excellent.
А на ВЭФе гордятся своим залом кавказской кухни. Волшебной чинахи, прекрасный кухня.
Better, yo, this is what people were eating in the USSR?
Не хуже, чем в московском ресторане.
Oh my gosh.
Можно пообедать.
This is what y'all were eating in USSR?
Я славлю белые
Oh my goodness gracious. Soviet Union food looking good. Yo, Soviet Union food, bro, this looks better than anything I've seen in America. I'm not gonna lie to you. Bruh, they had it nice in the Soviet Union, huh?
А рядом пельменная. Техника пришла и сюда. Эту вкусную продукцию в пельменном цехе наштамповал автомат.
So, how do you pay these people?
Want to become a cyber?
Like, how do you like pay these people? Because communism, is there like currency? I don't think I've ever heard the USSR having currency. So how does that work? Someone explain that to me in the comments, please. Also, did I like accidentally fast forward? I think I did.
Производственное объединение «Альфа» – первенец электронной промышленности республики. Только что ему исполнилось 25 лет. И средний возраст работников –
25.
Здоровье нужно беречь с молоду. Об этом
Little do they know that the whole country would fall apart in a couple of years.
Здесь свой врач-диетолог. Профилактика проще лечения и куда действеннее. Статистика показывает, в последнее время на Альфе даже хронические больные реже берут бюллетени.
I want to try that stuff there. Too bad I can't go back in
Повара
time.
не только кормят, но и лечат. Изобилием овощных салатов тоже. Диетическим питанием на Альфе обеспечены все желающие. Его можно получить по абонементу, за наличный расчет. Многим предоставлены льготные путевки профсоюза. Чай.
Damn, people in the Soviet Union really living the life, man. Look at that food.
Это
I'm really
тоже
hungry.
целая
I'm
аптека.
really
А
fucking
лекарственные тем
hungry
более.
from seeing this
Рабочие
shit.
со своих огородов даже мяту приносят. Возьмите для нашей столовой. Все для человека, все на благо человека.
Oh, we
Это
get to see the
наша
streets
государственная
now.
политика. Все чаще тяжелая и грязная работа ложится на плечи машин. На производственном объединении радиотехника применяются промышленные роботы. А с диспетчерского пульта управления комбината питания современная техника помогает мгновенно связаться с нужным участком, будь то моечное отделение или кулинарный магазин. Расширение сети фирменных магазинов промышленных объединений предусмотрено в основных направлениях развития народного хозяйства страны. Говорят, можно купить все, кроме времени. Правильно. Время, сэкономленное здесь, бесплатное приложение к каждой покупке. И здесь, в магазине самообслуживания
they're in the
комбината питания
stores.
«Импульс»
Look at that. They're literally in the stores. Bro, I swear, I was taught that stores in the USSR did not have food. Especially like the late USSR. What?
объединения
What is
коммутаторов.
this?
Социологи подсчитали, каждый из нас тратит на покупки около
Is this like
300
propaganda or
часов в год.
something?
Почти целый отпуск. А
It couldn't have
здесь
been
его
because this is in
помогает
Latvian archives, I believe, right? I don't even
свой
know.
магазин
I genuinely
и
do not
свой стол
know.
заказов.
Bro, my stomach
Такой
is
торт
growling
можно
looking at
заказать на
this.
комбинате питания «Импульс».
Although that sugar
Кондитер
though,
это и художник,
ooh,
только
I don't know about that
рисующий
sugar
кремом.
there.
Его произведения всегда находят поклонников.
I don't know about that sugar. That'll make my face break out too much. Not the sugar, just regular
Автор
food.
оформления торта юбилейный Анастасия Афанасьевна Харум, наставник молодежи, начальник кондитерского цеха «Импульса». Разве что птичьего молока не хватает. Но и оно есть. Разработана белковая масса Весма. Она прекрасно заменяет традиционный крем. В заводском кафе «Майга» приятно посидеть с друзьями. А в блинной у самовара можно напиться чаю с медом, со сливками.
Like, what is with all this hate in the Baltics against the USSR? What is with all that hate? Well, the place was technically illegally occupied, really and truly, but nobody recognized it. Fun fact, nobody recognized the USSR occupation of the Baltics to its very end. Not a single soul. Not a single soul. So, yeah, legally speaking, internationally speaking, the occupation was seen as not legal. So there's that. But it's like, I really am trying to think, but I can't really think of what bad did the USSR do to the Baltics. The only thing that I could really think of is the deportation of a lot of people, but that was like during the Stalin era. Like, Stalin was just deporting like any and everybody, right? Like, whenever I hear people and their hatred of the USSR, it doesn't really make any sense because they'll just like bring up stuff from like the Stalin era, right? And it's like, okay, well, this guy literally did not care about what ethnicity you were really. Actually, this guy was literally just like, it was just doing stuff, really and truly in his interest. Like, that's the thing with Stalin. He's like, whatever was in his interest and really and truly what was seen as, well, in his opinion, the best interest of the USSR, i.e., like protecting the USSR, right? That's why Stalin occupied these countries after the Second World War, right? And it's funny because Western historians and people from the West, they don't even like argue with that logic. They're like, yeah, it was a pretty sound logic. He argued, okay, well, Russia was invaded twice from the West, right? So you need a buffer from the West. The West is clearly problematic, and it's funny because this all throughout Russia's history is always just been like, well, Russia needs a buffer because the West has always been constantly, quite literally, harassing Russia. But anyway, that's for a whole different video. All I'm saying is, post-Stalin era, what did the USSR do to the Baltics? I really cannot think of anything. Like, I'm literally searching through my mind, and I can't really think of anything. Maybe I just don't know enough information. Maybe I. But that's what the comments is for. You guys can enlighten me.
Славно попариться в бане у себя в оздоровительном пункте производственного объединения «Радиотехника». Нет, это не ресторан. Так выглядит кафе «Зодиак». А ведь, по сути, заводская столовая. Здесь можно выпить горячего бульона и отведать итальянской пиццы.
Holy.
Пицца недавно получила рижскую прописку. Сейчас будет готова. Простая лепешка, а внутри целый ужин. Пицца хороша горячей, душистая, острая. Вот сколько у нее ценителей. На радиотехнике своя коптильня, оснащенная современнейшим оборудованием. На выховце тоже своя коптильня и куры гриль. И все идет на расхват. Можно не только отведать самим, но и купить для дома.
You know what this reminds me of?
Полуфабрикаты.
Reminds you of like the Caribbean supermarket. Like, this is Caribbean supermarket that me and my family we go to because, these garbage American foods, we try to not eat from it, but we go to this Caribbean supermarket to buy stuff that is found in the Barbados and just the wider Caribbean that isn't normally available in America. And this vibe, like, I was looking at this vibe, and I'm like, this vibe is eerily familiar. I was like, why is this vibe so familiar? And I just couldn't really put my finger on it. Then I was like, oh my God, this is like just like that place. Like, literally. And so many people, I'm talking, people would literally drive like 5 hours. Okay? So many different, we've met like a lot of Caribbean people there, and they'll be like, yeah, man, we drove like 5 hours to get here because there's no like Caribbean place like in our city where we're from. Yeah, people, bro, telling you, man, like, this American shit, American food is garbage. Not completely garbage, but it's just really, really awful. My goodness gracious me. Sorry, my braces, man. Freaking whenever, you know, I speak a lot with these braces in my mouth, sometimes some spit does come out. But you know, yeah, this is the vibe that I get from this. It's really eerily similar.
В богатейшем ассортименте. Откуда? Из собственных подготовительных цехов. На Альфе усовершенствовали электромясорубку и стали делать домашние колбаски. Передвижной контейнер и в машину. Крупные комбинаты питания снабжают полуфабрикатами и городские магазины, как, например, Универсам Минск, рижанам на стол и свой вклад в продовольственную программу страны. И снова ВЭФ. Современное инструментальное производство должно выглядеть так. Социальный прогресс на ВЭФе догнал технический и даже обгоняет его.
Wow.
Неудивительно,
This
что за
gives me a whole
последние
different
10 лет
perspective, I'm not gonna
текучесть
lie.
кадров сократилась вдвое. А это кафе инструментального производства. Много сделано руками самих рабочих. А в своем доме и еда вкусней. Керамика в национальном стиле. Уют. Рабочий день подошел к концу. Заводская гардеробная. Согласитесь, такой порядок не у каждой хозяйки в шкафу. Очень удобно. Все под рукой. На ВЭФовце день японской кухни.
Japanese
На дегустации можно отведать
cuisine?
экзотические восточные блюда.
Japanese cuisine in the USSR? What? I've never heard this shit before. It's even more funny because Japan and the USSR had a border dispute that transformed into the Russian Federation, Japan having a border dispute of the Kuril Islands or some shit like
Похоже на
that.
театр. Тем интересней. Легко ли вместо привычной вилки? Но лучше один раз попробовать, чем 100 раз услышать. Отварная рыба, креветки и, конечно, рис. Расширение кругозора.
God
По
damn.
меню. Ведь врачи говорят, однообразная пища не только надоедает, но и вредит. Будущее ВЭФовцы. Совсем скоро свои двери на фотоэлементах распахнет новый корпус. Это своеобразный испытательный полигон и для общепита, и даже для основного производства. В конструкторском бюро отдела главного механика, которым руководит Индулис Карлович Пога, разработаны эти конвейеры. А вот и хозяйка, Анеля Адольфовна Козловская, руководитель комбината питания «ВЭФовец», кавалер орденов Ленина и Трудового Красного Знамени, заслуженный работник торговли и общественного питания. Хоровод тарелок. Конвейеры будут обслуживать манипуляторы. Они станут дозировать и суп, и пюре, и даже взбитые сливки.
It's crazy to think this was literally 6 years before the country completely fell apart. I'm just flabbergasted by that. 6 years. It seems like everything's perfectly fine. Wow.
Идет отладка в зале диет питания. Здесь выховцы также смогут пообедать в кредит, но система расчета более совершенна, а комплексный обед можно составить...
Really makes you wonder, what if the USSR did not collapse? What would the country be like today? That's so interesting to think about.
Сегодня такая техническая оснащенность доступна не всем предприятиям, но отношение к заводской столовой как к важному цеху доступно всем и обязательно. Ведь каждый рабочий день за наш общий стол в заводских столовых садятся одновременно многие тысячи рижан.
I'm gonna react to this video in the future here, but that was very, very, very excellent. Gave me a whole different insight that I never seen before in the USSR. Now, like I said before, I don't know. You could just say like this was propaganda. Really and truly, was it propaganda? Maybe. Probably, who knows? But like I said, propaganda isn't always lies. Really and truly, what I've learned in the West is that, you know, the USSR, like late USSR, just completely did not have food. Interestingly enough, this is not what I saw here. So I'm like, I don't know. I really don't know how to take from that. But regarding the Baltics, though, no ill treatment. Well, based from this video, but you can't just take one video at face value. Duh. Quite fascinating, honestly. Quite fascinating. I'm gonna be. It's really hard to make a proper comment because I'm like, what is the correct thing to say? I can't find a correct thing to say. But if you have any more videos on Russia, USSR, all that stuff you want me to react to, you can always comment in the comments below. Like I said, I'm a big Russia fanboy. I will be doing, actually, for a couple of days, yeah, I'll be posting videos relating to Russia and like Russian history, reacting to that stuff there. Because Members Week is coming in 2 weeks, I gotta do like member only suggestions for 2 weeks, and I'm like, oh my god, I haven't done a video on Russia since my birthday. I'm like, no. I gotta give my Russian people, you know, some videos, you know, some reactions, man. And plus, like I said, I'm a big Russia fanboy, and I can't go that long without not doing a video on Russia. You know what I mean? Definitely. So, like I said, subscribe if you're new, especially if you like videos on Russia, because I will be doing videos on Russia until I die, quite literally. I'm not kidding. Not just that, but people tend to unsubscribe from me because they see that I'm a big Russia fanboy. So, you know, it would be nice if you guys could subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you're Russian. I've lost a good, believe me, I'm not lying about that. I lost a good chunk of subscribers because of that. But like I said, I stayed true to myself, because if there's one thing in life, is that you should always stay true to yourself. Nonetheless, but yeah, all that being said, tomorrow, yeah, another video on Russia will be coming out. So, that's after.